Our film does everything from the highest tech, digitally animated, digitally composite.
Where were you on July 4th, 1996? Maybe you were grilling in the backyard, cheering for the Yankees, or walking on the beach with Alanis Morissette playing through your Discman. Or maybe, like millions of others, you were in a packed theater rooting for Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, Vivica A. Fox, Randy Quaid, and the rest of the cast as they fought to save Earth from an alien invasion in Independence Day. When the film opened in theaters, it was not treated like an ordinary summer release. It turned into a major moment in entertainment. Directed by Roland Emmerich, it earned more than $800 million worldwide and outperformed other big titles of the year, including Twister and Mission Impossible. Audiences were drawn to its large-scale action, touches of humor, and characters that stayed with viewers long after. For Will Smith, the movie marked the point where his career shifted, turning him into an international star.
In that serious a situation, it's a really a fine line.
But what many fans did not realize is that the movie's story off-screen was just as interesting. The set was filled with pressure, confusion, and clashes that never made the news at the time. Despite the chaos, the final product gave audiences stunning effects and action that still hold up today. And hidden within the film were little details and references that even longtime fans might have missed. So while most people remember the White House explosion or the famous "Today we celebrate our Independence Day" speech, there is so much more behind the movie than what we saw in theaters. With its mix of blockbuster magic and behind-the-scenes drama, Independence Day has kept its place in pop culture for almost 3 decades. Here are some fascinating facts and Easter eggs about this classic. The rapid rise and military fallout of Independence Day's script. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin's work on Independence Day began with fast momentum, turning a simple idea about aliens into one of Hollywood's largest blockbusters. After their success with the 1994 film Stargate, they came up with the new story during a press tour in Europe. In a 2014 Reddit Ask Me Anything, Devlin said a journalist asked a question about aliens, which led to Emmerich saying, "I would go to the White House and say, 'What do you know?'" That idea became the base for a script showing giant alien ships appearing over cities instead of hiding in secret. Emmerich and Devlin spent a month in Mexico in early 1995 and finished the draft in only 3.5 weeks.
As kind of in awe of the first movie I am myself.
In a 2016 Guardian interview, he explained how he and Devlin wrote it together, with Emmerich reading old classics like War of the Worlds but finding them outdated. He said they liked disaster films, but adding aliens was a new twist. Looking out from the Hollywood hills, Emmerich told Devlin, "Imagine if all this sky was the underbelly of a ship." The treatment gained attention immediately. Their agent, Michael Weimer, sent it out, and studios showed interest the very next day, according to the 2021 Oral History. Emmerich and Devlin chose 20th Century Fox, which had a record of big films like Star Wars. Fox quickly approved the project, and pre-production started within a week in February 1995, a rare pace for a movie budgeted at $75 million. Devlin explained that they shaped the story around a July 4th release to get ahead of Tim Burton's Mars Attacks, which was due in August. In the Guardian interview, Emmerich recalled Devlin saying, "Let's just call it Independence Day. We can come up with something better later." The name stayed, and the script mixed ensemble characters such as Will Smith as a pilot, Jeff Goldblum as a scientist, and Bill Pullman as the president, with a patriotic climax and large-scale destruction. Production started strong, with support at first from the United States military. The script had many military elements, including fighter pilots, generals, and the president directing forces. Devlin noted in the film's commentary, mentioned in a 2016 Uproxx article, that the Pentagon agreed to provide bases, aircraft, uniforms, and advice to keep details accurate. This would help save costs and bring realism to the project. However, that support ended when the Pentagon reviewed the full script. Their concern was the use of Area 51, which in the story held a captured alien ship from the 1947 Roswell crash, hidden from the president and the public by officials like Secretary Nimziki. The military objected, saying it showed the government in a deceptive light and fueled conspiracies. They asked for all Area 51 material to be removed. Emmerich and Devlin refused. In commentary, Devlin said, "Their one demand was that we remove Area 51 from the film. We did not want to do that. so they withdrew their support. Emmerich added that it was one of the most important aspects of the story as it connected real myths to the film. Devlin said Area 51 worked as a symbol because people did not believe the government would ever admit to hiding something like that. Without military help, they turned to civilian sites like Wendover Airport in Utah and relied on effects work, which created more than 3,000 visual shots. Talking about computerized visuals, the movie production required a lot of that to make the movie realistic. Independence Day changed computerized visuals. Independence Day changed the use of computerized visuals in science fiction films by mixing traditional effects with new digital methods.
None of the digital effect shots are purely digital. What they are primarily.
The film, made with a budget of $75 million, had more than 3,000 visual effects shots, a record at the time. It used miniatures, motion control cameras, and computer-generated images to show the alien invasion.
Over 6,000 elements to make up over 400 visual effect shots. Now, to give perspective on that.
Volker Engel, who supervised the effects, explained that 95% of the destruction scenes were done with miniatures that were then combined digitally. This approach marked a change in the field, where both practical and digital effects worked side by side. It made the destruction of landmarks look real, and these images became well known in popular culture. The aliens were created using both practical and digital effects. Designer Patrick Tatopoulos looked to Ridley Scott's Alien for ideas and made them with an outer exoskeleton that held a smaller inner creature. The outer biosuit opened up to show tentacles and a second jaw, which gave them a strange appearance. For close-up scenes, such as Dr. Okun's encounter in Area 51, puppets and animatronics were used, but digital tools added smooth movement to the tentacles and glowing features. Brent Spiner.
But what we tried to do was to create a situation where we could do special effects.
In an AZ Quotes entry, pointed out that his character's name, Okun, came from visual effects artist Jeff Okun, who had worked on Stargate. Later work in the sequel added details such as muscle and skin movement, but the design still retained its alien quality, featuring features like hollow eyes that reflected light. Emmerich, in a Wired video interview, explained how these tools improved, letting the aliens move more naturally in action scenes. Some of the most complex computer sequences were the aerial battles and the alien shields. These were handled by VisionArt using procedural animation in Prism software from Side Effects. The shields, shown as shimmering energy fields, had to react to missiles and explosions in a way that looked convincing, which took many tests before being approved. Rob Bredo, who worked at VisionArt, said in a befores and afters interview that they used procedural systems to save time under tight schedules. The final explosion of the mothership was another digital challenge, with VisionArt creating the massive blast through particles and compositing. In Vanity Fair's Notes on a Scene, Emmerich explained how they used practical cloud tank effects, which involved water tanks for smoke, then digitized them to make the giant shadows over cities. He said much of Independence Day's success came from mixing models, real explosions, and digital work. The destruction of the White House, often thought of as only digital, was mainly practical. A 15-foot model was blown up, filmed with fast-speed cameras at 300 frames per second, and then slowed to 8 seconds to build tension.
Today we are doing the explosion of the White House.
Computerized matte paintings and digital compositing were used to bring it all together. Engel described it in a Hollywood Reporter interview as the hardest effect to create, but it became the film's most recognized image. Emmerich later said in a Den of Geek interview that the destruction scenes helped define the idea of summer blockbusters, with digital tools making it possible to show larger events than miniatures alone could. In a YouTube interview for Moonfall, Emmerich looked back after 25 years and said the visuals in Independence Day were state-of-the-art for the time and showed how digital technology had changed filmmaking. The cast also shared their thoughts on the effects. Will Smith, who played Captain Stephen Hiller, spoke in a Cinema Blend article about the spaceship flight scene with Jeff Goldblum's character David Levinson. He said the computer-generated interiors and zero-gravity effects made the experience memorable and real to him. Jeff Goldblum said the visuals helped his performance because they gave weight to scenes where green screens often surrounded him. Bill Pullman, who played President Whitmore, gave his famous speech with practical sets that were later filled in with digital alien forces. In Ranker quotes and later interviews, he explained how the effects made the scene's stakes more believable. In another YouTube clip, Pullman said the digital explosions and alien ships gave more power to his speech. Emmerich said in a Guardian interview, quoted on Ranker, that the film focused on group heroism instead of just one star. Still, he gave credit to the visual effects for creating the sense of unity against the alien threat. In American Cinematographer, the production described how high-speed units filmed explosions that were then digitized to look larger. Vision Art's work, written about in VFX blog, used computer graphics for the dogfights, which moved beyond what practical models could do. Engel explained in Hollywood Reporter that while Independence Day relied heavily on miniatures, it broke new ground in how digital compositing was used. A debated casting process.
Have this massive cast, and when the movie starts,
The casting choices were essential to how the movie turned out to be a massive success. Emmerich and Devlin decided against building the film around one major star. Instead, they brought together a group of actors with different levels of recognition, aiming to present a story where the collective stood above any single name. Dean Devlin later explained in a Collider interview that they chose people they wanted to work with and did not feel the need to secure a superstar, since the spectacle itself would carry the film. This decision also allowed more of the budget, set at $75 million, to go into effects and large-scale production rather than salaries. Executives at 20th Century Fox supported this idea and compared it to earlier successes like E.T. and Star Wars, which had also featured relatively unknown leads. Will Smith's role as Captain Stephen Hiller became one of the most decisive elements in shaping the film. Emmerich and Devlin had wanted an African-American lead from the beginning after seeing Smith's performance in 6 Degrees of Separation in 1993. Studio executives resisted this casting, calling Smith unproven and expressing concern that international markets would not accept him as a lead. Devlin later recalled the conflict with the studio in a Cinema Blend interview, saying there had been strong opposition. However, Emmerich insisted that the project would only proceed with Smith and Jeff Goldblum, and the standoff was settled shortly before filming began. Smith, who was best known then for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, took the role as a chance to establish himself in action films. In a 1996 interview with Bobby Wygant, he described it as the role of a lifetime. His mix of humor and confidence, particularly in moments like the alien punch scene, became widely remembered and marked his rise to international stardom. Bill Pullman was chosen to play President Thomas Whitmore, a former fighter pilot and Gulf War veteran. He studied political works such as Bob Woodward's The Commanders and watched the documentary The War Room in order to capture a realistic sense of leadership. In a Screen Slam interview from 1996, Pullman said he was drawn to the combination of action and responsibility that defined the character. His delivery of the speech beginning, "We will not go quietly into the night," modeled after Shakespeare's Henry V, became one of the film's most enduring moments. On a 2021 Rich Eisen podcast, Pullman recalled people in South America reciting the speech back to him during a promotional tour, showing its wide reach. Jeff Goldblum played David Levinson, a satellite technician whose intelligence leads to the plan that defeats the invaders. Already familiar to audiences from Jurassic Park in 1993, Goldblum used his characteristic delivery and mannerisms to shape Levinson. In a Bobby Wygant interview from 1996, he said the role was about a man with ideas who became central to the fight. His partnership with Will Smith gave the film some of its strongest scenes, especially their escape from the alien ship.
Will Smith says, E.T. phone home boom, and the place roars.
In 2016, Goldblum told the Motion Pictures Association that returning for Resurgence was like coming home, linking back to the importance of his original performance. Brent Spiner appeared as Dr. Brackish Okun, the eccentric scientist at Area 51. The character's name was a reference to Jeffrey A. Okun, a visual effects supervisor from Stargate. Spiner, best known as Data from Star Trek, brought an unusual, outdated energy to Okun, with long hair and an eccentric style. In a 2016 interview with Direct Conversations, he described the character as belonging to another era. His frantic enthusiasm during the alien autopsy scene became one of the memorable shifts in tone within the story. Several notable casting changes shaped the final lineup. Ethan Hawke was first approached for the role of Hiller, Still, he rejected it after dismissing the script, even throwing it out of his car window. In an IndieWire interview, he later admitted regret after seeing the film's success. Matthew Perry was originally cast as Hiller's co-pilot Jimmy Wilder, but left before production, calling the script a failure in an Entertainment Weekly interview. The role went to Harry Connick Jr. Other members of the ensemble also left their mark. Vivica A. Fox played Jasmine Dubrow, Hiller's partner, and added depth to the personal side of the story. Randy Quaid played Russell Cass, the crop duster pilot whose final sacrifice became one of the defining moments of the climax. Each of these parts contributed to the sense of unity among ordinary people facing extraordinary danger. Roland Emmerich later told The Guardian that the cast gave credibility to a story that might otherwise have been dismissed. The combined performances of Smith, Pullman, Goldblum, Spiner, Fox, and Quaid ensured that Independence Day endured not just as a spectacle of destruction, but as a film remembered for its characters. Filming and production locations also significantly influenced the film's reception by the audience. Locations and choreography in Independence Day. Independence Day brought its story of alien destruction to life by carefully selecting locations across the United States that balanced realism with cost. Director Roland Emmerich and producer Dean Devlin searched for places that gave both the look of real city chaos and the feeling of empty landscapes. Filming was carried out in California, New York, New Jersey, Utah, and New Mexico. Each site was chosen to provide a sense of authenticity for scenes that ranged from crowded urban panic to desperate escapes. The United States Bank Tower at 633 West 5th Street in downtown Los Angeles was used as the rooftop where people celebrated the alien arrival. It was picked because the building is a well-known part of the city's skyline, and its height made it a convincing target for the first strike in the script. A model of the tower was built and destroyed at Hughes Airport in Playa Vista, so that the explosion could be filmed safely without harm to the real building. This choice tied the film's destruction directly to a landmark that people recognized. New York City was filmed to show its busy energy.
There was also an enormous amount of on-set effects with enormous explosions and car crashes. I know in one day alone in New York,
Shots of alien ships over the Manhattan Bridge and traffic jams came from South Street and Pike Slip, along with the intersection of Church Street and Leonard Street in Tribeca. Tribeca's narrow streets and mix of building styles gave the invasion scenes a raw look without needing much computer work. Wall Street at William Street was chosen for the panic of financial workers, since its importance gave weight to the destruction. In New Jersey, Donnelly Memorial Park on John F. Kennedy Boulevard East at Anthony M. DeFino Way in West New York was used for David Levinson's chess game with his father. Its quiet benches provided contrast to the chaos building elsewhere. Los Angeles was the main filming base. The home of Captain Stephen Hiller was filmed at 6033 West 74th Street in Westchester, close to the Los Angeles International Airport, which made sense for a pilot's residence. The Millennium Biltmore Hotel at 506 South Grand Avenue was used as the First Lady's suite. Its historic lobby and rooftop helipad gave the right feel of luxury and authority. The 2nd Street Tunnel in downtown Los Angeles was used for the fiery escape scene. Its underground layout allowed stunt drivers to work safely while giving a sense of real danger. After the alien attack, ruined streets were shown at the Kaiser Steel Plant in Fontana, San Bernardino County. This location had already been damaged in earlier productions like Terminator 2, which made it ideal to show wreckage with minimal setup. For the desert sequences, the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah were chosen for the crash site where Hiller drags the alien pod. The endless white surface created a feeling of isolation and gave the pod a bright glow. The crew had to work carefully because the edges of the flats turned to mud, and there were no facilities nearby, so planning was strict to avoid vehicles getting stuck. The president's evacuation scenes were filmed at Golden Oak Ranch in Newhall, California. A replica of the White House was built with a helicopter pad, and the expansive grounds gave room to stage the frantic liftoff.
We put a lot of thinking into that. Everything was a mold, so every piece was...
In New Mexico, the Carl G. Jansky Very Large Array was used for the radio telescope scenes. The actual antennas were filmed to add real science detail to the story, eliminating the need for fake sets. The choreography of action scenes required careful planning. At the Salt Flats, stunt coordinators made use of the slick surface to show the skids during the crash landing sequence. Heat and dust made retakes difficult, and the actors struggled inside heavy suits under the sun. Fight scenes in the desert were especially difficult, with Will Smith wrestling performers inside bulky alien costumes that caused exhaustion and minor injuries. The F-18 canyon crash sequence destroyed 4 scaled jets when the explosives failed on early attempts, which meant the team had to reshoot several times, adding strain on both time and budget. For the rescue scene with Jasmine and Dylan in a truck, the 4th Street Bridge and Santa Fe Avenue were used. Stunt drivers had to weave the truck across the bridge while extras ran through falling debris created with practical rocks and smoke. Timing everyone's movements made the sequence hard to complete. The film used practical sets and real locations to make events feel grounded. In Rachel, Nevada, the trailer park used for Russell Cass's home included a time capsule buried by the crew near the Little Ailey Inn. It was set to be opened in 2050, linking the shoot with the town's local interest in unidentified flying object stories. Wendover Airfield in Utah, once used during the Second World War, stood in for the El Toro Marine Corps Air Station. Its hangars and runways added authenticity, and crews restored old planes to serve as props. Explosions were filmed with fast speed cameras on location at places like the Biltmore, combining practical fire with later digital effects. Timing stunts with later visual effects, such as syncing the helicopter's movement at Golden Oak Ranch with computer work, demanded repeated rehearsals. These choices and the effort behind them shaped the film's large-scale destruction into scenes that looked both believable and intense. Awards, legacy, and box office boom. In 1996, Independence Day arrived in theaters with a story about an alien attack on Earth. It earned more than $817 million worldwide on a budget of $75 million. It became the highest-earning film of that year and gained both financial success and formal recognition, even after some had doubted the script and its heavy use of special effects. At the 69th Academy Awards in the year 1997, the film received the award for Best Visual Effects for the work of Volker Engel, Douglas Smith, and Clay Pinney. The same event nominated it for Best Sound, which recognized Gary Himes, Gary Rydstrom, Gary C. Bourgeois, and David M. Ron. At the Saturn Awards, presented by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, it won Best Science Fiction Film, with Roland Emmerich named Best Director and the effects team receiving Best Special Effects. Jeff Goldblum was nominated for Best Actor for his role as David Levinson, and the screenplay by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich was nominated for Best Writing. The Music Television Video Movie Awards gave the film Best Movie. Will Smith received Best Male Performance and shared Best On-Screen Duo with Jeff Goldblum. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts nominated it for Best Special Visual Effects. The recognition extended beyond award ceremonies. In the year 2001, the American Film Institute placed Bill Pullman's speech with the line, "We will not go quietly into the night," at number 98 on its list of most memorable American movie quotations. In the year 2016, the Library of Congress added the film to the National Film Registry for cultural, historic, and artistic reasons. Commentators later described how it influenced the growth of large summer campaigns, such as connecting film releases with holidays to build attention. Its scale and style influenced later disaster films, including Roland Emmerich's 2012 and ensemble films such as The Avengers. Commentaries also note that the film reflected the mood of the 1990s, showing American pride after the Cold War. Abroad, audiences responded strongly to the effects, with many reports stating that the spectacle contributed to its success despite its American focus. In the year 2025, publications still examined it, including Catholic Culture, which discussed its themes of choosing good over evil. The film's business results were equally large. On the July 3rd to July 4th weekend, it opened with $50.2 million across 2,882 theaters, which was then the largest two-day opening. It reached $100 million in 11 days. In the United States, it earned $306 million, and international markets added $511 million for a worldwide total of $817.4 million. 37.5% of the earnings came from the United States. According to the numbers, the film showed strong staying power after its opening. Merchandise added millions more in sales, with licensed toys, clothing, and McDonald's Happy Meals. A 1996 report stated that the film's box office was larger than the yearly income of some studios, raising the profile of Fox. Home video sales grew with both video home system and later digital video disc, reaching more than $100 million in rentals. By the year 2014, Roland Emmerich's films together had earned $6.6 billion, according to IMDb. For Will Smith, Independence Day remained his highest-earning film until the year 2024. Before release, expectations were uncertain. The script was written in only 4 weeks, and Emmerich's earlier work on Stargate had left some critics doubtful. Early test screenings were poorly received, with audiences reacting at moments that were not intended for humor. Reshoots raised the budget. The Pentagon declined support because of the parts involving Area 51, so the team had to rely on practical effects. Reviews were divided. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars out of 4, describing it as corny and filled with cliches. On Metacritic, users left mixed reviews, with some disliking its sentimentality. FlavorWire's Bad Movie Night review called it poor in 1996. Despite these views, word spread through crowded screenings, and the film became an event. Film Obsessive described the audience response during its premieres, while the Film magazine later noted that its large-scale story helped it stay recognized as a model of blockbuster filmmaking. By continuing despite criticism, it became a central example of how summer films can reach a wide audience. Censorship, political suspicions, and global reactions. Independence Day's story about humanity uniting against alien invaders also led to political disputes. In Lebanon, censors from the Interior Ministry's Public Security Department ordered 2 edits, according to the Washington Post in November 1996. One scene showed Judd Hirsch as Julius Levinson putting on a kippah and leading White House aides and soldiers in a Hebrew prayer. Another showed Israeli and Arab troops working together in a desert outpost. Both were removed to avoid sensitive material about Muslim and Jewish relations. Khalil Khoury, manager of Beirut's Empire Theater, explained the cuts as eliminating all the Jewish pictures. Hezbollah urged a boycott, describing the film as propaganda that praised Jews as protectors of humanity and suggested threats from Arabs and Muslims. Hezbollah spokesman Ibrahim Moussawi, speaking to the Washington Post, criticized the way Jews were shown as saviors. Jeff Goldblum, who played David Levinson, later said the group had misunderstood, stating that the film portrayed teamwork across religions and nationalities in the face of a common enemy. The censorship in Lebanon reflected larger regional concerns. A scene showing Bedouins fleeing alien ships while Americans organized resistance was seen as unbalanced and tied to Western bias, according to the Washington Post. Cutting or altering Jewish or Israeli content was not new in Lebanon. Other films, such as Striptease, also underwent edits for unrelated reasons, illustrating how careful oversight was a routine practice. Reports through the Los Angeles Times noted that the movie made use of stereotypes, which deepened criticism. Jordan also reportedly censored certain parts during the peace talks of the 1990s, though exact records are limited. Bill Pullman's speech as President Whitmore was filmed on August 6, 1995, at Wendover Airfield in Utah, in front of a hangar that once housed the Enola Gay. This was the same day 50 years earlier that the atomic bomb fell on Hiroshima. According to Mental Floss and Agent Palmer, this overlap was not intentional, but gave the speech a symbolic connection to the aftermath of the Second World War. Emmerich and Devlin added the line, "Today we celebrate our Independence Day" during filming to reinforce the title, which Fox had debated using because Warner Brothers already owned rights to another project of the same name. The speech was later compared to Shakespeare's St. Crispin's Day speech by FlavorWire, showing its impact. Questions about politics were not limited to the Middle East. In Canada, the American-centered story raised concerns. European press, including Canadian outlets, asked if the film presented the United States as the global protector, a sensitive point in the post-Cold War period. Emmerich faced questions during press tours about whether the film glorified the United States' dominance. Canada's multicultural perspective led some audiences to perceive the United States-led storyline as excluding others, although no censorship occurred. Within the United States, the release during President Bill Clinton's administration led to comparisons. FlavorWire observed that Pullman's character, a young ex-pilot president, drew from both Clinton's youth and George H.W. Bush's war record. His weakness early in the film was viewed as a reference to the criticism Clinton faced for avoiding the draft. The iHeart podcast added that Clinton himself watched the White House destruction scene inside the actual White House, which stirred discussion about the political undercurrents of the film. Around the world, the patriotic elements created debate. According to the iHeart podcast, 80% of European audiences tended to be skeptical of the United States, and critics in Europe saw the movie as propaganda. Reddit discussions, noted in Substack, described how, despite the film's portrayal of international cooperation, the United States clearly took the lead. Arab characters were shown as armed but allied with Americans, according to Internet Movie Database, which some viewed as a token representation, especially since the same scenes faced censorship in the Middle East. In the United States, the Pentagon declined to support the film because of its Area 51 storyline. Film school rejects noted that this refusal increased speculation about government secrets, and fans used the iHeart podcast to discuss links between the film and real-life cover-up theories. Despite these disputes, the film performed well. It earned $306 million in the United States and $511 million abroad, for a total of more than $817 million, according to the numbers. A marketing push of $30 million, including a $1.3 million Super Bowl advertisement, fueled anticipation. While the Los Angeles Times pointed out stereotypes in the movie, the box office success outweighed criticism. Emmerich explained through Agent Palmer that his goal was not political, but to make entertainment, though the strong American imagery drew responses beyond that. Its reach shaped the blockbuster style that followed, as noted in Moviepedia. Still, the edits in Lebanon and the discussions about politics across different countries showed how a movie made for mass audiences could raise questions and reactions far beyond the screen. Independence Day remains a defining blockbuster that blended spectacle with heart, reaching audiences worldwide. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin created a vision of humanity joining together against alien invaders. From Will Smith's career-making punch to Bill Pullman's memorable speech, the ensemble cast gave weight to the science fiction story, while the visual effects, such as the White House explosion, set a new level for disaster films. Nearly 3 decades later, Independence Day continues to stand as a lasting piece of cinema. What can you say about the movie? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.